Joe presents Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby, together with Guinness.
Well, what a weekend. History made. A very warm welcome to you all to Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby, brought to you by Joe, together with our friends at Guinness. I think it's fair to say that Baz has missed a belter. You snooze, you lose. He's out of town. The professor is back, and it's very good to have you with us. There is only one place to start, and that is with the big game of the weekend. What did you make of Canada-Germany?
He was playing, yeah. We got much. This is going to be a short episode, I think.
Yeah.
There's not much to talk about.
There isn't. We've got just one or two points to skip over. Interestingly, if you do want to know, it was Canada who beat Germany in the big game of the weekend. There's quite a lot of hoo-ha around that over here, wasn't there? Did you read the article that sort of seemed to divide rugby fans?
No, I didn't do much research in the Canada-Germany game.
Perfect. Okay, let's get into it then. I mean, it was a hell of an occasion, first of all. It was a hell of a result. It was a hell of a performance. You were there. Little tear in the eye. Well, I mean, how did you handle the full-time whistle?
It was the atmosphere was incredible. Everybody's been talking about it. I think the contrast from last week, Argentina, it was flat the whole game. It was sort of, I invited a couple of people along to the game, and they're not rugby guys. Yeah. So I was sort of going, it's not a great advert for rugby. There's no buzz, no excitement. This week was unbelievable, just off the charts altogether. The emotional side of things, not so much in the final whistle. There was a moment, it was a big moment in the game. Jacob Stockdale locked up Ben Smith, and then Sexton joined in and bumbled him into touch.
His fist pump off the back of that, I know.
And everybody in the stadium was going,
we're with you.
This is the moment we're going to beat the All Blacks again.
From your perspective, I mean, we've traded on Chicago a number of times over the last few shows. Absolute delight that they did it again, or just a little bit of. Some people have now done it twice. Yeah, devalues your currency somewhat.
Yeah, but it's nice to be the first team that did it.
Okay, good. We can still cling to that. Good. Always be the first. As you said, we have got so much to talk about. Let's quickly sort of mark the conversation points. Obviously, we'll talk about the epic encounter. We'll talk about a remarkable performance from Peter O'Malley, defying all medical, human and logical points to inspire his team. We'll obviously touch on the Kiwi media as well, who have lavished the praise on Joe Schmidt and are now labelling the best team in the world. And we're going to be joined by the former Leinster outhalf, Cathal Marsh, to look ahead to the USA game. And he's got a really interesting perspective on that as well. Let's start, though, with Steve Hansen. It was obviously billed as 1-2, but let's hear from the All Black head coach in the immediate aftermath of the defeat for the All Blacks.
Well, you'll make them favourite, so if you want to make them favourite, go ahead. What it does do, I think, and I said this at the beginning of the week, you have the two best sides of the world playing each other, so as of now, they're the number one team in the world. So I guess they are favourites.
Very gracious. Actually, that's interesting. It's an interesting point to pick up on just very quickly. What did you make of the All Black sportsmanship in defeat? It looked like they took it very well. Yeah. A lot of praise from Hansen. They are good losers as well as good winners. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And I credit where credit's due there. Kieran Reid after the game, very, very humble. As rightly so, I think just the All Blacks, it's such a rare occasion that they get beat. And they just, potentially you could argue that they just don't know how to cope with it, I suppose. But I thought they came across really well, really humble. And I'm sure they're just looking forward to the next chance they get against Ireland. Yeah.
So to pick up off at the back of the game, Jamie Heaslip said in the commentary that I was listening to, he said, this is everything. Do you want to expand on that as to just the significance of the result for Irish rugby?
It's everything in that it changes the picture. It just changes, arguably, if we were to play them next week, we'd be favourites. Arguably then, if we beat them next week, we're the best team in the world. So the whole picture's changed, the whole context. When you play the All Blacks, you never go onto the pitch expecting to win, but now we do. And I think that just subtle, pretty significant mindset has changed, and I think that's what Jamie's getting at. Now, this is everything. I wouldn't agree with that is the only thing, because this, in the context of the next 12 months, this is nothing really. Yeah. But it's a kind of significant change in the mindset of this Irish team going forward. I think they will never, certainly in the next 12 months, they will never walk onto the pitch and think they're going to get beat. They will always walk on with kind of a little bit of a Leinster mentality. Yeah. Last year, James Ryan walked on the pitch. Like he didn't lose a game for 12 months or something. Yeah.
I think he's only lost once in his professional career. Is that right?
Oh,
twice.
Australia.
One with Leinster and one with yes, that's right.
But again, that mindset. This team is a team of winners now, and they just have the habit of winning. They have the knack of winning, and it's interesting hearing Josh van der Flier talking after the game and Luke McGrath as well, and they both said it. Having beaten the All Blacks, such a significant moment, and they said, big game next weekend against USA.
That is absolute crap, isn't it? I mean, will Joe have said to them, you enjoy this moment, live in the moment, and celebrate it hard, or will he have said, get in the ice bath and we're back on the training ground tomorrow morning?
I think even Joe will go, lads, come on.
Yeah.
Would you take it easy? And
I mean,
just
Johnny
enjoy-"
Sexton put out a tweet, I think, saying, quiet night ahead, with one of the sort of lying emojis.
Yeah.
Surely they will, on this occasion, have absolutely gone for it, won't they?
You would have thought so, yeah. I think, well, obviously, a lot of that team will change and they'll give a few guys opportunities next week against USA, but I don't know why we're falling for it here. We're talking about
well, you should know better than most. You've been in there and lived it. I mean, will they have been given carte blanche, get out and go, or will it have been quite a sort of strong team celebration?
I'd say, well, last time we beat the All Blacks.
When you beat the All Blacks, yes, good. We need a sort of tally counter in this. I think. There's a little clock in the corner.
We kind of stayed together, so
Yeah.
I would imagine again that was the Leinster mentality when they won European Cup. They came back and celebrated with the rest of the team. So there's something quite significant and poignant about getting together with your teammates and the guys who've been there and help you get prepared. Even the guys who haven't gone on the pitch.
Yeah.
It's quite a nice moment to get together and just enjoy those times.
What about the performance itself? So, I mean, to use a cliche, France in the 70s with just Flier, JOE.ie. Is it fair to say that the performance on Saturday was just the most outstanding sort of scientific forensic analysis of the All Blacks and a sort of deconstruction of them? Is that a fair call?
The performance the weekend had everything. In the first half, Ireland just didn't want to take 3 points. They just kept going to the corner, kept putting them under pressure. Their phase play was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Their ball retention was really good. I think it was summed up in how kind of cynical New Zealand were being. They were just Retallick slapped the ball out of Luke McGrath or Marmion's hands. Whitelock flopped on it. There was another couple of penalties in the 22. There could easily have been a yellow card at one stage. And I was almost concerned because Ireland were so dominant against the best team in the world. They just looked head and shoulders better than them. But they only went in 9-6 up. And I thought New Zealand's points came a little bit too easy. For having very little possession and just putting Ireland under very little pressure. They won the battle in the air, to be fair. I think that was Ireland were second best there. Everywhere else they were top. And then the second half was totally different. There was a purple patch for New Zealand and it looked like, right, here we go.
Yeah.
This is the team that we expected to see perform today. And they just looked like they got their tail up for about 10 or 15 minute period. And Ireland's defence was so dogged, so much character, so much resilience. No one can cope when the All Blacks have a purple patch like that. No one can cope with it, but this Irish side did, and it was incredible. That Irish performance had everything.
Can you give us a bit of insight into Farrell's defence? Because obviously he's now beaten New Zealand 4 times as a coach, once with England, twice with Ireland, and with the Lions.
Does he talk about it as much as I do?
I don't think so, no. we should get him on the show, actually, and sort of deconstruct it. But obviously he's held the All Blacks trialist twice now, with the Lions in the second test last summer, and this one as well. Just give us a sense of what the Andy Farrell defensive sessions are like with Ireland and how he inspires such a remarkable sort of intensity.
Yeah, very simple mindset in defence. Get up and hit people and maintain.
It works, doesn't it?
Maintain your gain line. Puts a lot of pressure on the guys in the backfield, with wingers getting slightly higher than they would. And you could argue then New Zealand went after that a little bit with their kicking game early on, but they didn't get much change. I just felt like there was so much energy, so much buzz, and it just felt like they were just feeding off each other. You know, every phase Ireland just seemed to get stronger and kind of more, just their body language, you could tell they were just enjoying defending. And I think that's something comes from Farrell, and he puts a big emphasis on that. So the boys just dug in time and time again. No matter how long New Zealand were holding on to the ball, eventually they'll get a chance. In early on, actually, they were going quite high in the 22. It looked like they made a decision, right, let's start chopping. They started chopping, and then straight away CJ and Josh got over the ball, got a penalty, big moment in the game. Pete O'Mahony got two jackals in the second half, 2 big moments in the game whenever New Zealand were in that purple patch.
Yeah.
And those are big turning points, and they needed them, and they got them at the right time.
Defence was certainly pretty rock solid, wasn't it? Let's focus on the attack as well. And before we deconstruct Jacob Stockdale's try, let's hear from Ireland head coach Joe Schmidt on the power play.
Not really, and I mostly steal them from other people. So I'm always on the lookout. I'm always keeping my eye out. I watch Mighty Teen Cup. They've always got a couple of good ones. There was a really good one. It looked like the Highlanders played. Recently I showed that to the coaches and just said, hey, we could maybe do this, because It's hard to get patents on moves. So we work away. What we do is, one of the things with the All Blacks, they work so hard that they work in to get into that chip line. They work across so they can get the far side of the defence up. So we kind of felt that we could go back down that short side. Now, as Bestie says, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, but it's always nice when you do put them together, and it's nice when everyone knows their role and they come off. But the other coaching staff, they come up with some as well. I've come up with some incredibly poor moves in my time. Bestie will probably testify to that. They looked really good on paper though.
Well, interesting from Joe Schmidt. What's interesting from a fan's perspective is on social media, you just begin to see where Ireland have tried this before. And we saw an example of it in the 2015 Rugby World Cup as well, where they've tried it, but it's not worked. How did they get it right this time for Stockdale?
So I think someone like Joe, he just has a freakish kind of knowledge and understanding and a memory of plays he's used in the past and scores and the way people defend. And I think he might have just looked at the way New Zealand were defending off the back of the line out and just said, I've got just the thing for that.
Into the filing cabinet, right to the back and pull it out again.
Back to the menu that existed 10 years ago or something. And it was so perfect. Dane Coles came off the bench and he brought a good bit of energy actually.
Yeah.
He produced a decent impact for New Zealand when he came on. You could see he was fired up. But it was like Ireland sort of went, okay, he's very enthusiastic. Let's take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And just came herring off the back of the line. He was going for Johnny, as everybody tends to do.
Yeah.
And it just looks like Ireland were just a step ahead. They said, we know he's going to do that, and this is going to catch you out. And then not just him, everybody was kind of just going that direction, just drifting a little bit. Jacob kept a low profile, just kept himself to himself, didn't draw any attention to yourself. Bundy drops under and then just hits Jacob, and then as Jacob tends to do, he finished it off. It was just perfect, as we're getting used to seeing like Schmidt sides just execute those power plays, those set piece plays so well, and that was just another one. It was just a thing of beauty.
Absolute belter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it ultimately proved to be the difference as well. Stockdale obviously says, the try scoring run he's on as well is absolutely astonishing. Do you want to pick out you could pick out 1 to 23, I know, but some of the other guys who put in the performance of their lifetime?
Jacob was the standout back anyway. He's becoming Ireland's go-to man in the air. So when you've got Carney and Jacob there, obviously Earls is big in the air as well for not being that tall. He's powerful and he gets high. So Jacob was very good. I thought he was a standout back, although big performances all across.
I know, you're dealing in sort of
exactly.
Yeah,
he was just slightly more brilliant than the rest of them. I thought Pete O'Mahony was ridiculous.
Yeah.
James Ryan, I've been kind of just thinking, I'm a big Ian Henderson fan, and I still am. And I'm always going, but Hendy can do that, and he still can. And I was just going, that's a bandwagon. And myself and Darren Cave were commentating for BBC at the weekend, and Cavey summed it up. He said, there's been a James Ryan bandwagon for the last year, and as Ulster men, we've been like reluctant to get on it.
Yeah.
We are fully on board now.
All aboard.
It was incredible. He just carries and carries and carries, and he looks equally as dynamic every single time. It was really nice actually to see the change up. A couple of times, the Ireland forward pods, they hold their depth and they wait for New Zealand to come to them, and then they just tip it on and they get round that corner and they just get a foothold in the on the gain line, and then quick ball next phase. And then a couple of times when it slows down, it's just like Ireland, they all just realise they're not coming up as fast this time. Right, let's punch in. And James Ryan got a little bit of joy out of that, and it just seems like they all just know how to manipulate this defence. It's so impressive. Tag Furlong as well was doing something similar. CJ, I mean,
we are doing 1 to 23 here, aren't we?
I
Big
know.
Dev.
Big Dev.
I mean, what was interesting off the back of the game is that Steve Hansen said he doesn't look like an athlete, but my God, he is an athlete. I mean, almost his finest performance in an Ireland jersey.
It was big, yeah. It was very big. And again, another big, significant moment. He just smashed Brodie Retallick, their talisman.
Hell of a statement, that.
Yeah, I know.
I do want to pick up specifically on Peter O'Mahony, because it was just a raging inferno of a performance. And there is certainly outside of Ireland, there's a sort of bit of mystique around him. From a personal point of view, I'm so pleased that he was man of the match, given the first test against the All Blacks 12 months ago for the Lions, and obviously didn't pan out the way he wanted off the back of that. But we know so little about him. And even in his post-match interview, he gives very little away. But behind the scenes,
He's mysterious.
he is. Yeah, but in some ways that adds to the sort of the legend in the choice, because you don't know a lot about him. There's a lot more intrigue around him. He's got that sort of mythical monster element to him. Is he like that in camp and having played with him for a number of years?
Yeah.
Or is there a different side to him which he just doesn't let on in public?
O'Mahony, Murray and Zebo, the three of them would kind of hang out quite a bit.
Musketeers.
Yeah, and I must say Zebo and Murray give him a hard time.
Right.
He's intense, and he's serious, but he's really funny as well. He's a good lad. Them boys would bully him a wee bit.
Right.
I think
Brave
it doesn't
to bully him.
I know, and like the public persona, he doesn't seem like the sort of fella who would get a hard time, but he takes it really well. He's just them boys just know him so well. They know kind of what way he operates, but certainly on the pitch, he's a leader in so many ways.
Because he laid down the law in the huddle before the game, didn't he?
He was the one doing the pointing,
screaming. Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me at all, because he demands high standards and he knows the game inside out, and he always has. There's always a little highlight reel of 2 or 3 massive moments, and he's right in the middle of them, whether it be intercepting a line out or poaching or
breakdown, whatever it is.
The chip that went through and he just plucked it. It looked
like a goalkeeper.
Yeah, it looked like he was miles away, and then he just plucked it. Long arms.
But I mean, to sort of explore him, he's such a presence on the field. Is he sort of back of the bus in that team environment and sort of just little words in, or is he a leader on the team bus as well, if you know what I mean?
I'd say he's probably quite different off the pitch than he is on the pitch. That's why I think kind of the public perception of him is quite different to how he is in the team. He's just like anybody else. He's just one of the boys, good lad, good crack. But there is that kind of serious side of him. One story about him, we were on our way home from the Rugby Players Ireland awards dinner, and myself and Gilroy and a couple of other Ulster guys were in the car, and we'd obviously been at the dinner. I was sitting at the table beside Pete, and we were catching up. How's the family? Whatever. What's the form? Whatever. All this kind of stuff. Then in the car on the way home, we were playing a game, and whoever lost the game had to make a call. And I lost, and then Gilroy goes, "You have to call Pete and keep him on the line for 5 minutes." And I was there. Well, we just caught up, so that's a weird call to make.
Yeah.
Right? So I called him, and then I was just doing all the, "Well, Pete, it's the same chat. How's the family?"
Just going round the roundabout again.
Yeah. Any other form? I mean, I'm 30 seconds in and I'm running out of chat.
Yeah.
And then he just goes, "You're only acting the bollocks." Hung up. That was the end of it.
That was the last time you spoke to him.
Yeah. And I haven't seen him since.
Brilliant. Yeah, he's obviously pretty intuitive. He gets you pretty quickly.
Yeah, he doesn't suffer fools.
Yeah, hell of a player. Which leads us on to, the back row and the breakdown in general. And obviously, Peter O'Mahony, absolutely sensational, but a remarkable performance as well from Josh van der Flier, who came in at last minute. We were talking about Will Addison last week and what that being dropped in does for him. But obviously, he's had a heck of an injury run as well. And we're just going to hear from him quickly on how hard he fought to get back and what it meant to him to play in the game.
Tougher opposition than most weeks. But yeah, we're just kind of focused on doing our job every play and keep going after them, and then all of a sudden it was the final whistle and we'd won, so it's kind of sunk in a huge amount.
After the year you've had, the way it started in February and your horrible knee injury, you work back for a night like this.
I think a lot I have to mention Fergal Karen and the physio, rehab and fitness staff in Leinster, because when I first got injured, kind of the 20th of November would have been that would have been 9 months. That would have been standard for the injury I got, so it's obviously, I don't think it's the 20th yet, so I'm obviously a good bit ahead of schedule. I think it's a testament to the work they've put in that I've managed to get back for this, and it's a very special day.
Was there much change in your mindset or in the lead up for yourself personally when you were promoted from the bench to the starting position yesterday?
Well, I was obviously on the bench, and you're kind of preparing for what is a massive week, and every week try and prepare the same and prepare as much as you can, and obviously maybe it's mentally slightly different if you know you're starting, but I was kind of prepared on the bench, and then yesterday when Dan pulled out, I was I'd gone through a lot of the kind of system stuff and game plan, so I had a good idea what was happening, and then I got the captain's run yesterday to run through a few things, so I felt pretty comfortable.
And just a word on Pete's performance.
He was outstanding, wasn't he?
What about that? The ball he nicked.
Yeah, he's incredible in the breakdown. He must have the best stats around, probably the Pro 14 and Europe, probably with the steals he's been getting. He's been incredible. He was really good last week and good again today. He's a bit of a warrior, and it's a privilege to play alongside him, someone playing that well.
Well, Ireland's back row strength and depth just continues to grow, doesn't it? And just a quick word on Josh's performance. We were touching on Will Addison last week against Argentina. In you go, play. And Josh did exactly the same thing. But at a different level against the All Blacks. It's sort of natural-born competitor.
No problem to him. He just stepped up. Josh, of anybody else, I'd say he's probably the most thorough guys in terms of his preparation. He would be sitting... guys would be sitting watching football in the team room in the run up to a game, and he'd be sitting with his notepad in front of him. He'd be always going through things, making sure he's ready for training, and very, very thorough. So if anybody was going to be able to cope with being dropped in, it wasn't quite last minute, but reasonably late in the week, he can cope with that no problem. Very, very mature kind of approach to the game, and very much a Schmidt kind of detailed approach as well. So. And it showed in his performance as well. I thought he was unbelievably good. You
can tell it's a big game because you've brought your notebook in as well. What have you scribbled in your notebook out of interest? Stats and facts and
just lots of stuff. I can't read my own writing. So
right. It makes you look more like a professor.
It does. Yeah.
It's a very good prop. What I just wanted to pick up on as well, particularly when we're talking about Josh van der Flier, is the fact that Ireland beat the All Blacks without Sean O'Brien, without Conor Murray, without Robbie Henshaw. The sort of the excuse in Chicago, and I know you'll disagree with this, is that the All Blacks were trying a few things and didn't have Whitelock and Retallick, etc. But this time it's almost as if Ireland beat the All Blacks despite having key men missing. And I just wonder what that does heading into next year's World Cup in terms of confidence.
Yeah, I suppose it's maybe a little bit like Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby being top of sports and recreation without Baz.
Yes, true. I don't know why that might be, but
imagine how good we're going to be with Baz.
Exactly.
You've done great.
Oh, you're too kind. I'm the Josh van der Flier of Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby.
I'll take that. Thorough preparation.
Yeah.
Someone said actually, that guy can present anything. He's so posh and polished. Talking about you.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, and they said. I don't want to.
I'll send them a thank you.
I don't want to reveal the source.
Right.
Someone described your voice as a land flowing with milk and honey.
Oh, stop it!
You're so posh.
I'm gonna put that on my CV. That's very kind.
It was actually Flannery said that.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I definitely will take that because actually that is a compliment from him. Is almost a golden compliment, isn't it? I'd expect a bit more of the backhand.
Yeah.
From Jerry.
To your face, he probably would have been more backhand.
Yeah, pull my trousers down.
I'd imagine.
Okay. We were talking about
where
strength
were
and
we?
depth. I don't know. We're sort of wandering around a little bit.
Digress.
Should we get back onto Irish strength and depth?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, fine.
If we must.
Yeah, no, I think whenever you can cope with the loss of Sean O'Brien, Dan Levy, Robbie Henshaw,
Murray in particular, though, as well.
And Murray, I know, and Murray. I think you forget about Murray, I suppose, which is weird because he's never really been in the picture despite a little bit of chat.
Yeah.
But I think we're in unbelievably good shape. Having said that, our strength and depth is so good now that the drop off isn't as significant. So again, the benefit you get when these guys come back isn't massively game changing either.
That's all right if you're number one in the world and beating the All Blacks. I mean,
and
you're still at a fairly high level. You're dealing again in those small percentiles to go up again.
They beat the All Blacks and they had a little disclaimer or an excuse.
Yeah.
We don't have these guys available.
Nobody says that very often.
They would have hammered them with the last.
Exactly. What's interesting though is just relative to 2015, and we were sort of touching on this before we started recording. Ireland went into that with a sort of concern that if O'Connell goes and Sexton goes and O'Brien goes and then O'Mahony obviously went against the French, you could sort of sense Ireland beginning to fear that they didn't have the strength and depth to cope. But this time around, you can just take people out and put others in, and the machine just rolls on. And I just wonder psychologically what that will do for the players heading into Japan 2019.
I think that'll continue to develop as well. I think there's competition in those areas, so that competition will just increase performances. Everybody knows that if they're not playing out of their skin, then they're going to struggle to get a start or get any impact. And I just wonder what way they're going to look at this Six Nations, because do they develop more strength and depth?
Yeah.
Are we getting a bit greedy?
Take it if you can get it.
Yeah, but I just wonder, what way they're going to approach the Six Nations. Is this another scalp? Do we need to keep this momentum going, or should we just take a breath and then let's get ready for the World Cup?
It's quite an interesting psychological point, that actually, as to the pot is bubbling almost perfectly now. And Joe Schmidt very quick in the aftermath to say, the World Cup is still 11 months away.
Yeah.
How he maintains that sort of temperature and keeping it at that level is almost a challenge that Irish rugby hasn't had before. I just wonder how, it'll be very interesting to see how he plays it and whether he does a bit of rotation, etc., and keeps people fresh, or whether he just keeps the team doing what it's doing.
Yeah, I think in the past it would have been, if you introduce guys, then you're basically saying, right, this is the second string, or we've got a lot less chance of beating England or France at home, or but now you bring guys in and it's not seen as rotating anymore. I suppose it's just
horses for courses.
Yeah, and it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other most of the time, and typically a lot of decisions will be made for him because there'll be guys that get knocks.
Yeah.
And that was the perfect example. Henshaw picks up a knock, and then Bundy and Gary step up and produce the biggest performances of their lives. So I think we're in good shape no matter what.
Yeah. Certainly the weekend would suggest that, wouldn't it? We're going to do what all the players did in the immediate aftermath of a historical win against the All Blacks. I'm going to turn it immediately on to the USA. We're going to start looking ahead to who perhaps deserves a chance. And you're talking about rotation. It'll be interesting to see who you think gets a crack against the US, who are actually on a 9-game winning run themselves. We're going to get the former Leinster out half, Cathal Marsh, to come and join us on the sofa as well before he flies out to join Rugby United New York, so he can give us a great inside scoop on what we can expect at the weekend. And we will reveal our Guinness Made of More Player of the Weekend. Have a guess who that might be, and we'll be back after this. Perfect. We have played musical chairs. Carl's come to have a seat on the sofa. I'm suddenly feeling quite conscious about my pipes. I've got 4 very big guns alongside, and I'll keep my sweater on, I think.
Well,
you still working out?
Yeah, small bit, yeah.
Don't really need to.
You're used to sitting beside Haskell, though, so...
I know, true that. It's a sort of alpha beta male thing
Yeah.
we've got going on. I'm certainly feeling that again today. Very good to see you. I'm fascinated to hear a little bit more about Rugby United New York and how you're going to settle in the Big Apple. But just very quickly, where did you watch the game? What did you make of it at all? Have you been in touch with any of the fellas?
Yeah, it was obviously an incredible game. My dad had tickets, but he brought my brother, unfortunately, so I got
omitted.
I got
The favourite son was sent elsewhere.
It was a tough one to take.
Where did you watch it?
So I watched actually with my mum and my sister in the family house.
Perfect.
I'm heading to New York on Thursday, so I was trying to keep my head clear with so much stuff to do this week.
Screaming and shouting and crockery flying everywhere?
Yeah, no, there was still, my mum was good fun to watch the game, but she's up and dancing around anytime there's a try, so.
Did you get emotional with the Sexton fist pump?
Yeah, I was loving it.
It's a big moment, wasn't it?
I think he's probably one of the only 10s who can sort of be a bit sort of insane and play on the edge and still sort of make the right decision every time. When I was growing up, it was always stay in the zone. People are trying to wind you up and you're trying to avoid that, whereas he seems to like it. And
you've obviously been in his slipstream at Leinster. I'd love to know, is he the Don who sort of only ever raises an eyebrow in the direction of younger players, or is he actually quite a good sort of mentor? And
yeah, he's actually very, very sound and good crack. Like, it's actually nearly good being a 10 around him, because like he's not going to be the one, you're never really going to be playing with him, so he won't be giving out to you if you get the move wrong, and he'll always be giving you good advice.
You never received like the Sexton red mist?
No, because we wouldn't have ever been on the same pitch together. So he's just sort of berating the sort of forwards if they get the play wrong, or the backs if they're in the wrong spot. So yeah, we usually just get the good bits, I guess, some good advice, and he sorts the boys out with boots. He actually got me these shoes, these Yeezys.
Oh, stop it! He's like Father Christmas.
As a going away gift. So yeah, he thinks he's very fashion. He gets all the free stuff from Adidas, so he gives it out to some of the younger boys.
Would he have been someone you'd have been looking up to when you were coming through school, or you're too close in age to him?
No, yeah, I would have been sort of finishing up school, and he would have been playing probably his first first couple of European finals. So
yeah, he wouldn't have been the hero that he is now, kind of.
No, I think he was going in that direction. I remember Felipe was playing in the 06 game, I think, against O'Gara in that famous one in Lansdowne Road. But yeah, then Sexton was giving it to O'Gara in Croke Park. So growing up, Sexton obviously would have been someone we would have looked towards.
Did you ever get the red mist from Johnny in a game?
Oh, loads.
Did
loads. Yeah, plenty. Actually, all the way back to when we played Mary's in school as well. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so Mary's would have been one of the few kind of southern teams that we would have played, come from Korean. Yeah. And not Johnny, actually, to be fair, one of his back rowers was coming at our 10 and like hitting him late and stuff, and our 10 he would almost be like our equivalent of Johnny. He'd have been a bit fiery as well. Right. And he kicked the ball early on purpose, get rid of it, and then the back rower's coming towards him, probably on Johnny's instructions. And our guy grabbed him by the collar and threw him into a bush.
Oh, wow.
beside the pitch.
Disappeared, never to be seen again.
Yeah, that was it. So they were playing 14 men after that.
How
Yeah,
extraordinary.
no, fell out with Johnny a few times, playing against him, but more so playing with him.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought Will Addison got an earful actually last weekend against Argentina.
Yeah.
There was a midfield scrum and they're 22, and Addison was on the left hand side because he's obviously covering 15 and 13 through the week, so he was standing on the left hand side, and I just saw Johnny screaming at him. I was going, I've been there.
Yeah, I mean, notch. Interesting, we're talking about school day rugby because you were at school with a number of the current squad.
Yeah.
Who was in your class?
Yeah, I would have. Well, Luke was one class below, but he would have always been on our team. So I would have played with Luke since maybe I was 10 or 11,
Really?
all the way up. And then when we were in 6th year, Dan Levy was in 4th year. He was obviously a bit smaller than he is now, but he was still, I think he was only 15 maybe playing our final, and he was probably the best player on the pitch. He just always has this sort of like bulletproof confidence from day one. He always sort of felt like he was meant to be there, and you can see that even today. Him and James Ryan and stuff just seem to love those big days in the Aviva.
Who were the prefects and who was always in detention of that lot?
I could have been in detention a small bit, unfortunately.
Hence you're off to New York.
Luke was always very, exactly.
He was in the choir.
Luke was very switched on. His mum cut his hair, and it was all. He was always very getting good grades and stuff like that.
Yeah, I imagine.
Those are the losers in school.
Yeah, exactly. What size bowl did he use? James Ryan has to be a sort of head boy or a prefect.
Yeah,
or
James
something.
was in 1st year when I was in 6th year, so
okay.
I didn't know him too well, but he was still. He was just the size of him back then. I remember he was taller than any of the 6th years. So,
have you heard from any of them off the back of the game? Did you do a little WhatsApp?
Yeah, I was texting Luke a bit. Me and Luke would be pretty close. So he had sent me a few photos of the night out and stuff, and it seemed like they had a good.
They
night
did
out.
have a good night out. Where did they end up? What did they do? Or was that classified?
Yeah, I think they were in. Well, I think Luke was in a traditional bar playing some sort of Irish music at one stage with a few of the other players and a few friends and stuff. So no, it seemed like a really good night.
Good stuff. Obviously, just I suppose to touch on the Sexton, I just want to pick up on the Sexton thing as well. World Rugby Player of the Year nominees. Barrett's in there again. He obviously won it last year. I think he's actually won it the last 2 years. There can be no debate now, surely, can there?
I would have thought that's Johnny's.
Yeah. He's clearing space on the mantelpiece already.
You would have thought so, yeah.
I mean, it'll be a travesty because obviously there's been a bit of history with Irish players and World Player of the Year before Dricko in 2009, I think it was, when everyone thought he would have got it. But
who got it in 2009 then? Put you on the spot. Sorry.
Yes. We'll come back after this short break.
Yeah, certainly the head-to-head, the Bowden Barrett, Johnny Sexton. Johnny definitely came out on top there.
Yeah.
Although it was quite a big moment when Wanga went to 10, Barrett went to 15, and they had a real good period, good passage there actually. There's a bit of pace going. Damien McKenzie was class at fullback as well, but I think Johnny came out on top in that head-to-head.
We shall see. Obviously, that's announced next week in Monaco. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the decision to go to New York, because then we'll come on to the game against the USA. But how have you found yourself at Rugby United New York?
Yeah, so the last couple of years have been pretty frustrating, I guess. I've had sort of 1 or 2 sort of freak injuries. I tore a tendon in my finger, which I was out for about 4 months with. Then last season was my toe. I was out for about 5 months with my toe, all in all. So it was time to move on for me with the 3 guys ahead of me. Obviously Johnny, Joey Carberry and Ross Byrne as well. I was sort of like coming to 26 and I just wanted to start playing a bit more and actually getting some game time. So with the injuries though, I wasn't actually sure if I'd be able to start for a pre-season because I hadn't been cleared to play yet. So it sort of came to maybe May, June, and usually the contracts would sort of be done for the next season, whereas I was pretty late still seeing if I'd be able to participate basically. Really? Then I did get cleared then in June, so I was late looking for a club, and I was sort of looking around and there was nothing really that quite interested me. I was hoping to stay in Ireland originally.
Did you talk to the other provinces?
Not this season. Like a couple of years ago, I was actually pretty close to joining Ulster. Right. That was sort of for my previous contract, and then when I was even younger, when I was in the academy, I was very close to joining Connacht as well. Yeah. But this time I just hadn't really been playing for the last couple of years, and that ship had sort of sailed a small bit, so that was my plan originally, but it just didn't work out this time, unfortunately.
And
It's the Leinster juggernaut. It's
Yeah.
filling squads all around Ireland, and now they're all full. So now they're going to start filling squads in the States.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
I know, and Michaels are pretty much responsible for a lot of that as well.
Yeah. Production line certainly
Yeah.
in full working order. Did Rugby United come to you, or did you go to them?
Yeah, so they James English, the director of rugby, got on to me probably in late June, July, and just yeah, he was looking to see what my plans were. I think Greg McWilliams, who's the attack coach of the USA, he would have been our coach in school. I think he maybe gave James a heads up that I might be looking for something, maybe something a bit different. So he approached me in July, and then it was just one of those decisions, I guess, that made sense pretty quickly. Like I was looking for something different, and I would have missed out on a lot of travel growing up. You might only get like a week or two in the summer.
Yeah.
So I thought a chance to live in New York and play rugby and do a bit of travel out that way. So it was a bit of a no-brainer, I guess.
Did you chat to Dave Gannon or Dylan Fawcett, is it?
Yeah, I would have played with Dylan in St. Mary's.
Yeah.
So he was chatting to me, trying to recruit me a small bit. I don't know Dave, but I heard he's a really good boy as well. And Marcus Walsh is the scrum half over there. He would have played to the age grade in Leinster, so he was sort of recruiting me a small bit as well.
Yeah, they talk about the American dream over there. I mean, what sort of a picture have they sold you as to where the league is going?
You know, the Americans they're very brash and
Yeah.
full of energy, and even the social media stuff seems very full on. But they seem to be doing a great job at promoting it, and there seems to be great energy behind it. Like the other cities involved in the league are great. Teams like Seattle, San Diego, New Orleans, Austin, Toronto have joined this year as well. So I think everyone's really excited about it. It's a brand new league, sort of brand new team. So we can really shape the future of it, I guess, in the coming years.
Have you got the penthouse in the Empire
No,
State
I
Building? Have
haven't
they
gone.
sort of laid out the
My
red
phone
carpet?
number must be broken,
Oh,
or
no.
WhatsApp must be down. Ben Foden hasn't been on to me yet.
Because he's going to be one of your teammates,
Yeah,
isn't he?
he joined before me to join New York as well. So I think he was sort of the main. He really got the sort of publicity and the excitement going. So no, I don't think I'm in the penthouse quite yet.
Fodes will be the Wayne Rooney of the MLR. Amazing over there. So give us a little insight into the US. I mean, I don't know how much sort of reconnaissance you've done over there, but you'll know probably more than most of us.
Yeah.
As to what sort of a challenge the US will provide Ireland this weekend.
Yeah, well, I think they've had a really good run of results recently. They beat Samoa in autumn. I think they just beat Romania on the weekend, but in summer they beat Scotland, which was a huge result for them to beat a sort of a tier 1 nation. And I think they've got really good coaching now.
It's Gary Gold, isn't
yeah,
it?
Gary Gold's the
London
head.
Irish in
Yeah,
Bath,
Gary Gold's the head coach, and like I said, Greg McWilliams is the attack coach. And I think like the Americans, you see with the American sports, like there's such incredible athletes that the more sort of expertise you can get in there, with good coaching, I think like everyone in the world wants America to have a good rugby team, because they'd really up things another level. I think if they did get to a good level.
Is playing for the States, is that something that's on your radar, or is that something with the 5-year rule? Is that too far away to think
that's
about
probably
it?
changed things a small bit with the 5-year rule, because the 3 years obviously more convenient. But I'm just going to take it a season at a time really, and see how I go. I'd be 31 after the 5 years, so I'd be a bit old. I'd be playing in the dinner jacket at that stage, away from the game line.
How would the standard compare to, I'm imagining with you and Foden, are you likely to be tearing it up, making line breaks for fun? What's the standard?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I haven't watched loads of the games from last year. From chatting to James and Mike Talkin, our head coach, they said it's good. Like it is getting better all the time. I think the signings for this season have been a lot better. But yeah, it'll be sort of like it'll be building steps. I think most of the best players, the best American players, are still based in Europe, I think. So hopefully it'll get to the stage where like the American clubs have their own academies, and they see sort of systems like the Irish provinces, and can start sort of bringing people through that way. But yeah, I'll have to just see when I get over there, I guess.
Do you get a sense of the potential? I mean, have they sort of spoken to you about it? Because I think I'm right in saying that USA is sort of front runner for the 2023 Rugby World Cup. I think that's what they're aiming for. Is that right? 2023, 2027? No, 2023 is France, isn't it?
Yeah.
2027. Sorry, apologies. Yeah. But I mean, are they talking in terms of going for it?
Yeah, well, I think like they're trying to expand. Just from chatting to the league, it seems like they're trying to expand every year and get bigger and bigger every year. Next year, there's 2 more teams joining, Boston and Washington as well. So I think, yeah, just keep building the excitement, keep building. I think it's just important for us, I guess, to put a good product out on the pitch that people want to come down and see, because it's obviously very competitive sports in America. It's tough to sort of break in and take the likes of the NFL, the NBA's market and stuff. So you have to put out a good product and build the excitement that way.
It seems like in the past, the States would have identified, right, you played NFL, you're an athlete, track athlete, whatever. Let's get all these athletes together and then put a ball in their hands, say, right, go and learn how to catch and pass that and kick that and come back to us in 6 months. But it seems like instead of rugby being a plan B, they're actually getting in early and getting people, genuinely interested in the game first and foremost.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most important thing, because I think people have taken to rugby pretty late, like you said, like after something else doesn't work out. Whereas if you can, you need to start coaching these guys when they're at least maybe 15 or 16, ideally, or even younger, as opposed to sort of just taking up and trying to learn to pass and kick when you're 23, 24, because as kids you take to things so much easier anyway.
The Olympics, I think, has had a huge impact as well, hasn't it, in terms of the funding and getting people interested in it, etc., in the sevens scene. And it's huge in the universities, is that right?
Yeah.
Colleges and universities.
Yeah, rugby would be biggest in the universities.
And have you sort of got a coaching remit as well? I mean, are you meant to be coming with a huge amount of IP and playbooks, etc.?
I don't want to come over thinking I'm too big a deal, but I'll definitely look to do some coaching sort of in the New York area, I think, sort of on the down days and stuff. Yeah. But I'll probably leave it up to the lads, and I'll see how we go.
You'll have the sheepskin on in no time. Just very quickly, tell us about then the plan between now and the first game.
Yeah, so I'm going over to New York on Thursday for Thanksgiving. Couldn't miss Thanksgiving.
Perfect for pre-season.
Exactly. And then there's about a month of pre-season, and then there's a bit of time off for Christmas. I'll actually be back at Christmas, and then the season kicks off at the end of January, and then it's entered pretty intensely from there. There's a couple of bye weeks, but it'll run from January until June, and then at that stage there'll be some playoffs, like the Americans like.
Right, you're going to stay with us, if that's all right, for our House of Rugby roundup. We're going to be back in just a moment or two. But first of all, let's hear from the man who you have thrown under the bus, the guy whose mum used to cut his hair in school.
Look, there was great images of when Jacob got his try, you guys absolutely mobbing him, everyone in the orange bit. Were you guys watching that, like half an eye in it, as you're supposed to be warming up?
Yeah, well, that play that Jacob scored off, you do that during the week and you're never sure if it's going to work off in the game, and thankfully it did. And once Jacob gets an opportunity, he saw I think it was Ben Smith come up into the line, the space in behind, and that chip, and once he gets those opportunities, he's absolutely ruthless. He's an unbelievable try scorer. So yeah, like you say, I was probably jumping up and down. I don't know what happened. There was just incredible excitement, but then you kind of have to relax, get into your warm-up routine, and you'll be on the pitch, and you never know when you're going to be pitched. So but yeah, it was an incredible moment.
And there was a lot of just guys absolutely wasting themselves, and especially in that first half as well. Is there moments where you're kind of even on the bench going, a big Dev Toner's hit on Metallic or something like that, like moments that stood out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Just all those tackles. I think the defence in general, like you say, Dev's hit. When I was on the pitch, Peter Manny coming back, that was absolutely incredible. I couldn't believe it. I thought his hamstring really went when he was running back. But moments like that, you kind of look back now on the pitch, or look back now when we get to review the game, and you kind of say, there were big moments in the game, and we won those today. But having said that, the All Blacks are a world-class side, and if we want to get to that level, we still have to improve.
We'll look very much on message, as you would expect, in this Ireland setup. Interesting to see what kind of a hairstyle he's rocking on Saturday, given the abuse that you've thrown his way. Let's talk about the team selection, though. And would you expect, I'll come to you first of all, Andrew, would you expect a lot of changes from Joe Schmidt and the chance just to try and see that strength in depth?
Yeah, I would have thought so. I would have thought Tag Byrne will be back in, Jack Coonan. Maybe someone like John Cooney might get a go at 9. I think there'll be a lot of changes.
Yeah. In terms of what Ireland want to get out of the game against the US, is it just game time for those people who perhaps haven't had a lot of time in an Irish jersey, or is there perhaps a little bit more that Joe Schmidt will want to get from it?
Yeah, I think it's a tough one this week because everyone will have been on such a high from last weekend. But I think the best way to counteract that is to get new blood into the team and play the people who will see it as such a huge opportunity. So the likes of Tyg Byrne and Luke McGrath and these sorts of players. I just think, that'll be the best way.
It'd be quite interesting to see how Schmidt guards against complacency. And Eddie Jones this week in the build-up to England-Japan sort of went to town in the press and was saying that we're going to smash them, they need to go to the temple and pray. I don't know if you saw any of this.
Yes,
he said they've been very cheeky as well, the Japanese, in the build-up to the game. It didn't really go according to plan, certainly in the first 40. I just wonder how Schmidt will press the buttons and make sure the fire is as stoked as it should be, particularly off the back of Saturday.
I doubt he'll be coming out with a similar
remarkable
narrative.
If he did.
Yeah, as if like the USA game is the big one he's been building towards. I think, as Cathal says, I think the way you deal with that is you bring guys in who, potentially this is their All Blacks. This is our chance. Yeah, this is our opportunity to prove that we're capable of delivering, even though it's not a massive stage. It's still a good opportunity to put on a green jersey and give a good account of themselves.
And you expect Ireland to win and win well?
I would have thought so, yeah.
Okay. Should we get the dustpan and brush out? We'll just sweep up one or two of the talking points that perhaps we haven't covered so far. CJ Stander at half-time arguably clocked his fastest sprint of the entire afternoon as he headed to the changing rooms.
He took off like a real
What was that
nonce.
about?
I don't know. I thought something had kicked off in the tunnel. So I got up to look quickly, expecting to see like a couple of guys rowing or fighting, or there was nothing going on.
He just wanted that half-time orange and he wanted it bad.
He was starving.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on. He took off, and then I kind of thought, maybe this is a thing that they've brought in. But then I looked, and O'Mahony was limping in. Rory was like last in as well. So I was going, CJ's obviously just took a notion here.
Is it I'm trying to get a psychological edge by showing to the All Blacks I'm going to get to the changing sheds first. Is that
Could be. It could be one of these things he just said. That's a good way to kind of finish positively. And I always hated halftime. I always felt like if I had performed well in the first half,
you want to keep going.
Yeah, and then if halftime comes, then you just kind of, it's hard to get, it's a bit flat. Ireland, I suppose, were a little bit flat at the start of the second half.
Yeah.
Being
very exhausted.
Very
sprinting
critical.
into the changing rooms.
Yeah, exactly.
Bizarre. Johnny Sexton, we were talking about the red mist a moment or two ago. I think it was the physio who got it for taking him off. He wanted to be there for the fist bump at the full-time whistle.
Don't shoot the messenger.
I know, poor bloke. I mean, that's just a natural-born competitor, is it? Who wants to stay in the arena until the final moments?
Yeah, I think I'd have subbed for him a small, but he never really wants to come off. Which I guess that was fair. I guess he wanted to be there for the final minutes and see it out because he had played so well.
He wasn't there last time either, I
yes,
suppose, because Joey came on last time and did really well again.
That was his debut, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Yeah.
He's beaten the All Blacks twice.
Amazing. And a Grand Slam.
I'm not sure if Joey came off the bench whenever we played the All Blacks at home then a couple of weeks later. So if he didn't, then he's only ever beaten the All Blacks.
That is outrageous. He should retire.
Yeah.
That's outrageous. Our good friend Mike Tyndall, I don't know if you'd have caught our show last week in the English version. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Anyway, he doubled down on Ireland and repeatedly went again and said, I still can't see the rugby that they're playing at the moment translating into World Cup triumph. He's gone to Dubai this week, possibly just to sort of give himself a bit of time out. But
emergency trip to Dubai.
Emergency, exactly. He travels all over the world. But it'd just be interesting. I mean, you'd go against that inevitably? Are the rugby that Ireland playing now, is the rugby that Ireland are playing now, exactly the kind of game plan that you need in a World Cup?
I think so. Yeah, I think there's no risk with the way Ireland play because they're so good at it and they execute so well and they're so accurate. And they take advantage of any weakness. I really can't see any credible way of criticising this Irish team.
You surprised me.
We reacted to Tyndall's comments a couple of weeks ago, and we really got carried away.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you listen to it?
I
Back?
did. Yes. Yeah.
We needed some English input.
Yeah.
I think
you needed his input. I imagine.
Yeah, we needed someone to defend him. We kind of wind each other up,
Yeah.
How dare you talk about our lads like that? So, and I don't know. Maybe I suppose the the only kind of credible point that he's making, I suppose, is that we're a long way out from the World Cup, and everybody's going to continue to get better, and everybody's going to continue to build. How does this team keep getting better? I just don't know, because they're playing so well. I don't know. That's a really, really small way of trying to find some
something to pin on the
some
notice.
balance. Yeah.
One other thing I want to talk about from Saturday was the step, the significance of Rory Best opposite the hacker as well. I mean, you know Rory extremely well. I don't know whether that's a pre-planned thing, but it was symbolic to say we're not taking a backward step this afternoon.
I think it was definitely a pre-planned thing. Yeah, it looked like it was kind of, there was memories of Willie Anderson back in the day, kind of stepping forward, and then obviously back then they didn't back it up quite so much.
No.
They got hockeyed then. So
the this time it looks very cool when you win, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you don't, you get skittled.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if we're looking at hacker responses, where would you'd probably still put Wales in the standoff, and they didn't back it up. But do you remember they sort of did a minute and a half when no one moved? And I think France at the World
Cup. Did he do a good one?
Yes, he did one. And the World Cup final in 2011, where France did the Arrowhead, probably goes in ahead of it. But
yeah, Shane Williams actually was speaking at an event there on Friday, and he recounted that story about whenever they
didn't move.
Yeah, they didn't move, and he was going, it just got so awkward, and he was thinking, if this does kick off, then every single one of them would batter me.
I'll just be back down the tunnel and come up for the game itself. No, well done, Roy. That was a hell of a statement, certainly. Did you see any other games? Scotland, South Africa? No. Okay.
I didn't watch any rugby apart from.
Certainly good win for the Box, and Razzie Erasmus. So slowly, quietly, they're learning how to eke out games. Obviously, they didn't quite do it against England. Smash and grab against the French, and then obviously coming through to beat the Scots. Japan. I mean, you obviously heard the story about Japan, England. Well, Japan were leading 15-10
they were in it for a long time. Yeah.
I mean, obviously in Ireland's group in the World Cup, with Scotland, Russia, and I think the US as well, isn't it? Is that right? Japan are not going to be a pushover, particularly at home. I just wonder the style of rugby. Did you see the game or not?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Certainly the style of rugby that they play.
Yeah.
Very, very quick. This sort of ruck and roll rugby.
Yeah.
You can see it causing a few problems, not necessarily for Ireland, but
they're
in with a shout, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they were playing sort of wide and really good skills. That back rower, Michael Leach, who's playing like Jonah Lomu. He stepped 3 or 4 of the England backs, scored an incredible try. They probably might struggle maybe a bit with strength and depth, but that start in 15 looked incredible. They really had England on the ropes.
They're quite like Ireland in a way, in that they are so forensic in what they do. And there was a really interesting thing they did at half time, which I'd not seen before, which is they came out 5 minutes early, and instead of sort of coming out and getting ready for kickoff, they practiced line-outs, they ran backs moves. So it's not just standing in the changing room talking about what they're going to do. They actually came out and put it into practice.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we might see a few other teams do that.
It's quite innovative, isn't it?
So they were ready to go at the whistle rather than using the whistle to get going again.
Well, the last World Cup, they obviously had a massive scalp, and then they'll be targeting. Ireland will have a target on their backs now. So I think Ireland are going to have to cope with that. Every side, their biggest game of their calendar is going to be playing Ireland now.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to cope with that. And I think they tend to cope with it in the right way. Joe will know every name in that Japanese roster. He'll know who they played for, what hand they carry the ball in,
which foot they step off,
everything. He'll know them intimately, and then he'll demand that all the lads know them as well. So that's the way to cope with that. Kind of give them the respect that they deserve, and then more often than not, kind of take them apart.
Yeah, they've certainly got something about them, Japan, and some very intelligent coaches as well, and Jamie Joseph and Tony Brown. And finally, France beat Argentina, which has sort of been the bogey side for them. But do you just get the sense that France are, I was going to say quietly, but they are just beginning to get their act together again, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're obviously so close to beating Ireland in the Six Nations, and I think it's probably an age-old question. If they do ever get their act together properly, they'd be absolutely incredible. But like, if you look at their World Cup record, like, it'll be a lot better than Ireland's over the years, and they do seem to sort of show up and peak for the World Cup, even if they're sort of in mad disarray with coaches and stuff. So yeah, if they can actually, if they have a bit of stability next year, I think they'll be very dangerous.
Yeah,
they're one of these teams. They've just got so much talent, so much quality, so much ability, so much depth.
Yeah,
and they just need someone to channel that correctly. I suppose maybe in a similar way to South Africa, there's so much quality in that country. There's so many unbelievably outstanding, talented rugby players, but they needed Razzie Erasmus to come in there and kind of give them a bit of structure, a bit of direction. Probably looking a little bit ominous for Ireland in that all these sides are just starting to build and starting to peak. But yeah, it bodes well for a few big encounters in the next 12 months.
It's going to be a heck of a World Cup as well. If you look at the list of genuine contenders, perhaps not even genuine contenders, but everybody can knock someone over on their day, can't they? Sort of 6 or 7 sides now, if not 8. I mean, do you think we're heading towards the most competitive World Cup that we've seen so far?
Yeah, it definitely looks it. Even looking at some of the rugby championship, Australia have beaten New Zealand.
Yeah.
Argentina have been winning some games. And then the Six Nations, there isn't much between them. Each year everyone's beating everyone, so yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah. Going to be a hell of a tournament. Ireland are favourites for it, but it's going to be a hell of a tournament. Whoever wins it will have to do something very, very special in a way that perhaps 3 or 4 tournaments ago, you're probably only realistically looking at 2 or 3 genuine contenders. The depth now is significantly stronger.
It was 2 or 3 genuine contenders, but it was always, even the World Cup that All Blacks didn't win.
Yeah,
it was the All Blacks tournament to lose, really,
right.
wasn't it? So they were always gonna win the tournament had they not just put a foot wrong or made mistakes.
Yeah.
But no, that's not the case. The narrative's totally changed. They're still the best team in the world, but I think on current form, I think if there was a World Cup tomorrow, I think Ireland would be the favourites.
Sounds odd,
That's
isn't it?
mental, isn't
Amazing
it?
to say that.
We're trying to get used to saying that, but
Yeah.
it's a pretty foreign concept.
Irish rugby for so long has fired on being the underdog.
Yeah.
It's going to be fascinating to see how they handle the tag of favourites. And Steve Hansen obviously piling a lot on in terms of pressure in that regard. Let's move on because we got the results of this week's Guinness Made of More Player of the Weekend. We put out a poll on Twitter on Sunday, and the 4 nominees, all Irish. There's a surprise. Peter O'Mahony, James Ryan, Tadhg Furlong and Josh van der Flier. And the winner, resoundingly, 82%. Did he get a trophy for this? 82% was?
Peter O'Mahony?
Yeah. There we go.
Got it written here.
I know. Well, sort of tag teaming.
Yeah.
Not surprising, really. I mean, it was a game for the ages from him, wasn't it?
He was just so good. James Ryan, to be fair, listen, we're going to do it again. We're just going to list every player that played in green. But yeah, there's a lot of guys who are playing out of their skin. Just Pete was just incredible. That moment, he just plucked that ball. That was such a big moment.
Yeah.
Big turnovers, just poignant moments in the game, big turning points, and he was in the middle of them.
Happy days. Happy days. We've got a few Twitter questions to get to as well. And thank you very much indeed to everyone who's popped one through using the hashtag AskHOR. Brendan Shields, I'll come to you, Cathal. In 11 months before the World Cup, how much international rugby will Joey Carberry and Tadhg Beirne need to play? If you want to target Ireland, surely you just target Sexton as 10 because the depth there is a key weakness. Interesting.
Yeah, it is, I guess, a tough balance. I've been very impressed with Joey's performances for Munster earlier in the season. So the big Champions Cup games, tough ones down in Sandy Park, and like games like that. I obviously haven't played that level, but they don't seem too dissimilar to international level. It's definitely a big building block to play and perform in those sort of games. So I think he has played at a high level, but I guess he'll play this weekend. Both of them will, and then. But after that, the Six Nations, they don't seem to do too much rotation, and then you're looking at, I guess, the pre-World Cup warm-up games.
Yeah.
So they're only going to have a couple of chances, I guess, to lock themselves in.
Do you think Schmidt will rotate during the Six Nations?
I think they might. Yeah, I wonder. I think in the past the World Cup's always been so far away that the best way to prepare for that is just winning Six Nations, and it's such a big opportunity to. I mean, Grand Slams are an opportunity now, year in, year out.
Yeah.
If we continue to go like this, it's going to be Ireland have a good chance of winning Grand Slams, and I suppose do you target that? Or Joe seemed to suggest. Tommy Bowe interviewed him for the program for the Italy game in Chicago.
Yes.
And Joe kind of said, we'll see what happens in the Six Nations. And it was unusual to hear him talk like that, almost as if he's thinking, let's use the Six Nations to get ready for the World Cup, which is a strange concept, especially from him, because he's always next game.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he will. Behind the scenes, he'll be saying next game, next moment. But I think you might not even have to force rotation. There will be a couple of knocks. There will be a couple of guys that'll pick up injuries and stuff, and that rotation will probably happen reasonably naturally. You don't need to breed kind of 15 new players. You just need to get 3 or 4 guys to kind of step up and just take another step towards the Sextons, the Murrays of this world.
We were talking about the fact that Ireland beat the All Blacks without Murray O'Brien, Henshaw and Levy.
Mm-hmm.
Is Sexton the one irreplaceable, or Furlong as well? Or could Ireland do what they did on Saturday without both, or either?
The scrum was so dominant.
I know.
Arguably,
And actually, that's a hell of an All Black scrum as well.
Yeah, arguably the tag is
It's most important.
You could, I think you could definitely put a decent case together because Joey, again, he hasn't had that much exposure, but what he has done, he's done so well, and I think he always seems. When he comes off the bench, he seems so mature for a reasonably young fella, and he just seems like it's no problem to him. Almost naively, it's almost like he doesn't realise how big a moment it is.
Yeah.
He's playing the All Blacks. Sure, beat them last time. Why don't I just beat them again?
Do you think he doesn't buy into the mystique because he had time down there as a
maybe.
junior? I wonder whether he sort of knows it is not that.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, maybe. Maybe he's just so comfortable. He's been obviously that New Zealand kind of influence on him, and I don't know. Yeah, there could be an element of that. That's a good point.
Question 2, Harvey. Do you think we can replicate these heroics in the World Cup? Both times we've beaten New Zealand, we've been on the ropes for a bit. Against Wales, we were on the ropes until the intercept. It's clear we get tired. Is our style of play sustainable at a World Cup? It's not from Harvey. That's from Mike Tyndall.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. Yeah.
It's clear we get tired.
Everybody gets tired.
Everybody gets tired. I did think, actually, it was interesting watching that game. You could see when Ireland began to tire.
There was a break in play and a lot of guys, hands on heads, cramp.
And it just the accuracy just dropped off a little bit. And I, from a player's perspective, what is that like in the moments where the legs get heavier, the brain gets a bit slower, the hands aren't quite as quick? I mean, is that something you actually feel during the match?
Well, someone like Pete, I know we've mentioned him a few times, but I think Pete looks tired very quickly, but he still keeps turning up.
Yeah.
He looks tired even when he's over jackling the ball.
Yeah.
And the output, you're going, that's not a guy who's tired because he's still executing, he's still hitting boys hard in defence, getting up off the ground. I don't know, I suppose maybe that body language, that's something that Joe would be hot on as well, not communicating to the opposition any kind of weakness. So yeah, I mean, if Joe is going to give him any kind of hard time, which would be really tough.
Yeah, pull your socks up and do your hair.
Come on, lads. Yeah.
Actually, Hansen said after the game, he said Ireland have got a lot fitter. He actually paid credit to the fitness staff. So who does the fitness?
It's Jason Cowman.
Okay.
Yeah. It looked like as the defensive sets went on, just Ireland kind of grew and grew and grew. Whereas when you're playing the All Blacks, that never happens. There's a feeling of inevitability. It's only a matter of time here before the All Blacks score, and I didn't get that feeling ever. Even though they looked tired, just felt like they just kept turning up.
Yeah. Wayne Barnes had quite a bit of opinion on social media. I'll throw this to you. You can have us. Always nice to talk about a referee. Thoughts on Wayne Barnes' repeated feedback in inverted commas, like yelling at the Irish attacking line with the ball incoming, or telling Luke McGrath to stay back from the middle of the All Black scrum, despite Rule 28.A, which foolishly I've not researched. I think it's a law anyway. The general question is: did you enjoy the way Barnes refereed, or do you think he didn't quite get the balance right?
What is Law 28.8?
Exactly.
It's my rule book. Yeah, I thought in the first half, New Zealand were probably a bit fortunate not to get a yellow when it was just sort of repeated in the 22 repeated infringements. But then in the second half, I thought Rob was pretty fortunate. You remember back a couple of years ago, if you take out a person in the air and they fall on their head, it's a straight red, and you could see him coming down and hitting his face. So Barnesy probably looked after us there. And then Johnny had a high enough tackle as well, which we've seen that issue in the last couple of weeks, that can easily be a yellow or a red as well. So I guess it was probably balanced. He probably let people off on both sides, I guess.
I thought, one yellow each.
You thought one yellow each?
I thought Carney's thing was probably a yellow.
Yeah, I always thought it was a yellow at most.
Yeah, it's very tough. It's very unusual to see him do that. His approach is usually so dynamic, and he just takes off perfectly. And then he must have been blocked by a player, kind of jinking in and out of players, because he just seemed to miss time. It was just really strange for him.
Yeah.
I thought that was probably a yellow because he was on the ground, and then again yellow for a repeated infringement at the end of the first half. So a yellow each way. I suppose you could say arguably two really bad decisions, but balanced up a little bit.
Yeah.
The only other one was a forward pass from Gary Ringrose. I thought was there's no way
that looked strange.
But you can pick through any referee's performance
Exactly,
and pull
yeah,
bits
no.
out. From a personal
You
point
brought
of
it
view,
up. We weren't gonna.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I haven't got the. Daryl brought it up. I just thought from a spectator's point of view and a fan's point of view, he showed huge empathy for an enormous occasion, and there are games where the referee wants to make a statement and get involved, and I thought he tried very hard to manage a seismic encounter, giving the players the benefit of the doubt where it was possible, and I thought that contributed to a really positive game.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, it was a brilliant game, and he played his part. It certainly flowed anyway. I think someone said there was Ireland got a penalty, and they were given off that should have been yellow card. It might have been the CJ standard, the kind of the high shot on him, and then Barnes actually said, "Go quick."
Coaching.
Yeah, as in go just distract him.
Yeah.
Just get out of my hair and go and kick that so that we don't have to have this conversation.
Quite right.
Yeah.
Quite right. Way too much chat back. So final thoughts. Saturday will go down in history as, I was going to say the day Irish rugby came of age. I mean, you've had some great days, but the day, how big a step forward was Saturday for Irish rugby?
I thought Saturday was significant just in the mindset change of Ireland. When they go on the pitch now, they will never go on the pitch and expect to get beat. I don't think they would have done that anyway, but I think they're going to confidently walk onto the pitch from now on and expect to beat everyone they play. Yeah. In the past, you go to France, you go to Twickenham, tough. Obviously, go to New Zealand, you play New Zealand anytime, it's going to be difficult. And you sort of think, let's see what happens here. I think they will always, for the next 12 months, this is a side that can cope with anything. And I think they're not officially, but I think they're the best team in the world at the minute. And that's a massive turning point for Irish rugby. Just that we always used to cope with underdogs. That was it. We had to be underdogs if we were going to perform. Yeah. And now we're overdogs.
Big dogs.
Yeah.
Just like you.
Yeah.
Would you go along with all of that?
Yeah, 100%. I think the squad profile is amazing at the moment as well. You've got guys like James Ryan, Josh Levy, Jordan Larmour, Andrew Porter, these young guys who have they've just come in so confident. They've always performed on the big days. And then you've got the more experienced guys like Johnny, Rob Carney, who are playing better than ever. And they're probably seeing this as their last probably big chance to win a World Cup. So I think they're just in a really good place at the moment.
Yeah, exciting times for sure. You're off on Thursday. Do you know, have you done your packing? Got your boots in the bag?
I have a few bits to do now. I have a couple of days to get it done. So
good luck.
Thanks
Keep
so
us
much.
posted on how it goes. We'll watch with great interest.
Yeah.
But I hope it's a real success.
Thanks, Emma.
Thank you very much, Cathal, for coming in. Thanks very much indeed, chaps, for your company, for your thoughts. This has been Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby, brought to you by Joe, together with our friends at Guinness. Thanks for your company, and we'll see you soon.